Om Sahana Bhavato Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvi Navadhi Tamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Namaste to everybody. Welcome back. Before I start today's session, which is from the 15th shloka of the first chapter, just a couple of things from yesterday. I had a few nice messages and emails. First of all, I made a blunder, thanks to my friend Srinidhi for pointing it out. I mentioned it that the Sutta Puranika told Shaunaka and the rishis in Dandakaranya, which is a mistake. It is Naimisharanya, slip of the tongue. Naimisharanya is the forest, the Naimisha forest, where not only the Mahabharatas, but all the Puranas are structured in the form where the Suta, who is basically like a bard or a raconteur, he narrates the story of the Purana, or in this case, the Mahabharata, to all the various rishis present there. So it is Naimisharanya. Secondly, I was thinking of mentioning this yesterday, but I seem to have slipped me. So thanks to my co-author, Dr. Sri Krishna, for pointing this out. At the start of the war, what happens is, I told you that Dhritarashtra is a blind king, so he has no way of seeing what's happening. But Vyasa offers him divine vision, that he can sit in his place and get a vision of what is happening in the war, like almost like watching it on a HD TV with all the, able to see all the details of the battlefield. But Dhritarashtra refuses. He says, I cannot watch with my own eyes the destruction of my own clan, my children and my brother's children on the battlefield. I cannot bear to watch it. So I'm content with just listening to it. So then Vyasa gives this divine vision to Sanjaya, who is able to see from where he's sitting, observing the battlefield and narrating the incidents to Vyasa. Of course, if those of you who read Kannada, who have read Dr. S.L. Bhairappa's Parva, which is a sort of retelling of the Mahabharata, trying to keep out all the fantastical elements, in that he brings out this same episode in a slightly different way, where he says that Sanjaya had a very effective team of raconteurs and spies and messengers who would constantly give him updates about what was happening. When we look at the practical possibilities of the war of that time, this might have been a possibility where constantly messages will be coming from witnesses who are there on the spot, and they're sending a team of people back to the palace and giving the updates. Whether you take that story or this with the original Mahabharata, the important thing is Dhritarashtra did not want to see with his own eyes, because the impact of sight is very, very powerful. When you listen to something, it brings down the severity by a notch. So that is just one point I had wanted to mention. I had forgotten. Then another thing I would like to thank one of our participants, Suresh Ji. I share this screen with you, which has the shloka in Devanagari on the top, and it has the Roman script in IAST format in the bottom. To manually do this, I did this for the first chapter, but it took a long time. So what would have taken me a couple of weeks, he did it in a couple of minutes by writing a small program. So I'm very thankful to Suresh Ji. And finally, I forgot to mention one thing yesterday in the class, which I put in the group later on, is that few people had been asking for the recording, and gave a good suggestion that if you make the recording available for just one day, in case due to certain contingencies they miss the class, they can catch up on the class later in the day or next morning, and then attend the next class. But it's available only for one day, because the organizers, Shilpa and Murli, they have observed, if the recordings are available for a long time, then the chances of people saying, okay, I will look at the recording in the weekend when I find the time and so on, and they never end up looking at the recordings. So that's the reason why we have made it into this 1 day availability format. So thanks to Rajiv ji and other people for suggesting this. Okay, so now let us come to the 15th shloka. Yesterday, Rajeshwari ji was very kind to volunteer. Maybe I can have a volunteer today. If you can just put, raise your hand or put it in the chat, then Shilpa will make you a co-host. So whenever, you can just unmute. Yeah. So Hamsa, definitely. Hamsa probably knows the Bhagavad Gita from memory. So Hamsa, can you make her the co-host? Okay. And one more thing, there was a suggestion from Murli. He said after reading out the verse, if we can give a short translation from the new Bhagavad Gita and then go into the Pada Vibhaga, then people might have a backdrop of what it means. And as we go further ahead, that might be useful. So I'm going to make that change in the order. So we'll start with I'll read out the verse and then read out just a translation. Then we will go into the prose order and the word for word explanation. Okay. So a recap of yesterday, we saw that Dhritarashtra asked Sanjaya what's happening on the battlefield. Then Sanjaya narrates that Duryodhana goes up to Drona and informs him about all the great warriors on both sides. And then once he tells his army to protect Bhishma from all sides, then Bhishma, who is the grandfather of the Kurus and the great warrior, blows his conch with full power and he in a bid to cheer up Duryodhana. And like I said, many of the times the conch has been won as after a great feat or been given as a gift by one of the deities. And typically blowing the conch signifies the start of an event, especially like a war. Now to the 15th shloka. Panchajanyam Hrishikesho Devadattam Dhananjaya Poundram Dadhmo Mahashankam Bhima Karma Vrikodaraha. So I'll just read out a translation. So Krishna blew his conch Panchajanya, Arjuna blew his conch Devadatta, Bhima, known for his terrifying feats, blew his huge conch Poundra. And the structure is pretty straightforward. Hrishikeshaha Panchajanyam, Dhananjayaha Devadattam, Bhima Karma Vrikodaraha, Vrika plus Udaraha, Mahashankam Poundram Dadmau. So Panchajanya is the name of Krishna's conch, and Hrishikesha is another name for Krishna. Each of these epithets have a certain meaning, but not everywhere do they come with an intent that it is connected to the verse. For example, Hrishikesha can mean a person who has controlled his senses. Dhananjaya is somebody who has won over Kubera, an epithet of Arjuna. So many times it is just to fill the poetic meter, but in some cases it has a lot of poetic and philosophical value. In those instances, I will go a little bit more into that. But here, Panchajanya is the conch of Hrishikesha or Krishna. Devadatta is the name of the Shankha of Arjuna or Dhananjaya. And Poundra is the name of the large-sized conch of Bhima. Bhima also is a kind of a epithet because Bhima Karma. So Bhima is somebody who's terrifying feats. And Vrikodara basically means somebody who has a stomach like a wolf or a belly like a wolf. Vrika is wolf, Udara is stomach. So Vrikodara, so he's got that kind of a ravenous appetite for food. And he's very, very large sized and huge guy. So naturally he needs a big shankha. A small one will not work. So Mahashankam Poundram, and all of them blew it one after the other. So you can repeat after me. Panchajanyam Hrishikesho.
Panchajanyam Hrishikesho.
Devadattam Dhananjayaha.
Devadattam Dhananjayaha.
Poundram Dadmo Mahashankam.
पौण्ड्रं दध्मौ महाशङ्खं
भीमकर्मा वृकोदरः
भीमकर्मा वृकोदरः
अनन्तविजयं राजा कुन्तीपुत्रो युधिष्ठिरः नकुलः सहदेवश्च सुघोषमणिपुष्पकौ. So the king Yudhishthira, who is the son of Kunti, he blew his conch Ananta Vijaya, and Nakula blew his conch, which is called Sughosha, and Sahadeva blew his conch, which is called Mani Pushpaka. So Kunti Putra Raja Yudhishthira Ananta Vijayam Nakulaha Sahadevaha cha Sughosha Mani Pushpakau Dadmau. That Dadmau is understood. So sometimes in Sanskrit verses, there is an implied word in the composition. Now, because it is all metrical poetry, people have to be very careful in the way the words are used. So we have to assume certain things which are not directly given here. So that is called adhyahara, where, for example, now there is no verb in this shloka. So dadmo, that verb has to be added to it by the reader mentally, so that this makes sense, because otherwise it just says Ananta Vijayam, which is the name of the conch. Raja is a adjective to Yudhishthira. Kunti Putraha is an adjective to Yudhishthira. Then it says Nakulaha, Sahadevaha, Cha, and Sughosha, Mani Pushpakau. These two, Sughosha and Mani Pushpaka. These are just some nouns put next to each other. So we have to assume that it meant they blew this conch, because we know from the story that these are the names of the conches. We can easily assume that they blew the conch. That's what we have to add mentally. Okay. Ananta Vijayam Raja.
Ananta Vijayam Raja
Kunti Putro Yudhishthiraha.
Kunti Putro Yudhishthiraha
Nakulaha Sahadevascha.
Nakulaha Sahadevascha
Sughosha Mani Pushpakau.
Sughosha Mani Pushpakau.
Kashyashmeshvasha Shikhandi cha Maharatha Drishtadhyumno Viratascha Satyakischa Aparajitaha. Satyakischa Aparajitaha. So, the great archer, the king of Kashi, and Shikhandi, the great Maharatha, Satyaki, the invincible warrior, Drishtadhyumna Virata. This continues, so I'll take the next one also. Drupado Draupadeyascha Sarvashaha Prithivipate Saubhadrascha Mahabahu Shankhan Dadmuhu Prithak Prithak. So here this is completed. Actually, it's almost like a continuous thing. So all of them blew their Shankhas one after the other. Okay. So here it is Drupada and the Draupadeya, which is the sons of Draupadi. All of them blew their conches along with Saubhadra, Abhimanyu, who is a great mighty armed warrior. They all blew their conches one after the other. Parameshwasaha, so Parama Ishu Asaha. Parameshwasaha Kashyaha cha Maharataha Shikhandi cha Drishtadhyumnaha Virataha cha Aparajitaha Satyakihi cha Drupada Draupadeyaha cha Mahabahu Saubhadraha cha Sarvasha Shankhan Pratak Pratak Dadmuhu Prithvi Pate. So Prithvi Pate is a reference, is a Sambodhana to Dhritarashtra that he's saying. So Prithvi Pate, listen, this is what happened. Kashyascha Parameshwasa, the great archer, the king of Kashi, who is a great archer, then the great Maharathi Shikhandi, then Drishtadhyumna, Virata, Satyaki, who is undefeated, Aparajitaha, undefeated, Satyaki, then Drupada, then Draupadeyaha, the sons of Draupadi, Sarvashaha, all of them, all Prithvi Pate, including Saubhadra, who Abhimanyu, who is a Mahabahu, who has got very mighty arms. All of them blew their conches one after another. Kashyascha Parameshwasaha.
Kashyascha Parameshwasaha
Shikhandi cha Maharatha
शिखण्डी च महारथः
दृष्टद्युम्नो विराटश्च
धृष्टद्युम्नो विराटश्च
सात्यकिश्चापराजितः
सात्यकिश्चापराजितः
द्रुपदो द्रौपदेयाश्च
द्रुपदो द्रौपदेयाश्च
सर्वशः पृथिवीपते
सर्वशः पृथिवीपते
सौभद्रश्च महाबाहुः
सौभद्रश्च महाबाहुः
शङ्खान् दद्मुः पृथक् पृथक्
शङ्कान् दध्मुः पृथक् पृथक्
स घोषो धार्तराष्ट्राणां हृदयानि व्यदारयत् नभश्च पृथिवीं चैव तुमुलो व्यनुनादयन्. That sound tore into the hearts of the Dhartarashtras, which is the sons of Dhritarashtra. The dreadful sound echoed through the earth and sky, shaking the very spirit of the Kauravas. Sa tumulaha ghoshaha nabaha cha prithivim cha eva vyanunadayan dhartarashtranam hridayani vyadarayat. So nabha is sky and prithivi. So the earth and sky resounded with this tumulo, like a tumultuous, amazing, very, very fierce, powerful sound. Vya anunadayan. So almost resonated with that sound. It was filled with that terrible noise of the different people blowing the shankha. And this sound, sa ghoshaha, this sound, it tore apart the hearts of the sons of Kauravas. So, like I said earlier, that to see something is very, very powerful. But here, almost the counter of that, you're seeing all these people, but then when they start acting, when they start moving into action, that sound of all the people creating this thing along with the visual effect of this huge army, suddenly it shocked the Kauravas. Like I said, already they are shocked that the Pandavas could gather together a seven Akshayani army in such a short time. Now this, all of them blowing the conches, create a terror in the hearts of the Kauravas. Okay. Sa ghosho dhartarashtranam
सघोषो धार्तराष्ट्राणां
hridayani vyadarayat
हृदयानि व्यदारयत्
nabhascha prithivim chaiva
नभश्च पृथिवीं चैव
tumulo vyanunadayan.
तुमुलो व्यनुनादयन्
अथ व्यवस्थितान् दृष्ट्वा धार्तराष्ट्रान् कपिध्वजः प्रवृत्ते शस्त्रसम्पाते धनुरुद्यम्य पाण्डवः. So Arjuna looked at the Kaurava army arrayed in battle, lifted his mighty bow, preparing himself for the clash of weapons that were about to begin. So atha vyavasthitan dhartarashtran drishtva Kapidvajah Pandavah Shastra Sampate Pravritte Dhanuhu Udyamya. So thus what were organized, Vyavasthitan is like all this arrayed in battle formation. Of whose battle formation? Dhartarashtran. Seeing, Drishtva, having seen this, Kapidvajaha. Who is Kapidvajaha? Arjuna. Because Hanuman is on his chariot. So usually every ratha will have a dhwaja. Dhwaja is like a banner or a flag. So on the flag there will be some image. So even from a distance you know whose chariot it is. So on Arjuna's chariot there was the image of Hanuman or Kapi. Now there is a Puranic tale behind that. Will not go into that, but he is known as Kapidvaja. So Kapidvajaha Pandavaha. So Pandava is Arjuna and Kapidvajaha is a adjective to Pandava. So Pravritte Shastra Sampate, for the clash of weapons that was about to begin, Dhanur Udyamya, he lifted up his mighty bow, preparing himself for what's going to come. So he is getting ready for the battle. Atha vyavasthitan drishtva
अथ व्यवस्थितान् दृष्ट्वा
Dhartarashtran Kapidvajah
धार्तराष्ट्रान् कपिध्वजः
प्रवृत्ते शस्त्र संपाते
प्रवृत्ते शस्त्रसम्पाते
धनुरुद्यम्य पांडवः
धनुरुद्यम्य पाण्डवः
ऋषिकेशं तदा वाक्यम् इदमाह महीपते अर्जुन उवाच सेनयोरुभयोर्मध्ये रथं स्थापय मेऽच्युत. So to Krishna, he tells the following words. He says, place my chariot between the two armies, O Achyuta. Tada Hrishikesham idam vakyam aha mahipate Arjunah uvacha senayoho ubhayoho madhye me ratham sthapaya Achyuta. So Mahipate again is Sambodhana to Dhritarashtra. He says, then after this, Hrishikesham, to Hrishikesha, then Tada, then he spoke these words. Vakyam idamaha. He spoke these words. So Arjuna says, Senayoho ubhayoho. The two armies, madhye, in between the two armies, Ratham sthapaya. Park my chariot. Go and take my chariot and put it in between the two armies. Achyuta. Achyuta is again an epithet of Krishna. It means unshakable or immovable, a person of the indomitable spirit. So, in a way, it is suggestive that if he's using the epithet Achyuta, so firmly park my chariot in between the two armies. Hrishikesham tada vakyam. Can you repeat, Hamsa?
ऋषिकेशं तदा वाक्यम्
Idam aha mahipate
इदम् आह महीपते
सेनयोर उभयोर मध्ये
सेनयोरुभयोर्मध्ये
रथम स्थापय मेच्युत.
रथं स्थापय मेच्युत.
यावदेतान् निरीक्षेऽहं योद्धुकामान् अवस्थितान् कैर्मया सह योद्धव्यम् अस्मिन् रणसमुद्यमे. So, who are the battle-hungry warriors with whom I must fight? I would like to see all the people with whom I have to engage in war. In the olden days, it was the rules of war that anybody could not fight with a warrior on the other side. So each warrior on a certain side had equal warriors with whom they could fight. So a person sitting on a chariot could not fight with somebody on the ground. So there were certain base rules. So Arjuna wants to find out who are the people he is supposed to fight, and it is fair for him to engage in battle. So let us look at the prose order. Yavat aham asmin rana samudyame kaihi maya saha yodhavyam iti jnatum. Knowing this, etan avasthitan yodhukama nirikshe. So I want to see nirikshe yavat etan. So here yodhukaman avasthitan. So yodhukaman is people who are desirous to fight. The people who are assembled here with eager to fight. Among them, kaihi, who maya saha yodhavyam, who among them should I take on? Who should be taken on by me? Maya yodhavyam. Asmin rana samudyame. In this kind of engagement of war. Udyama, we know, like is profession. Samudyama, rana samudyama. This undertaking of war, who should I face in this battlefield? Okay. Yavad etan niriksheham.
यावत् एतान् निरीक्षेऽहं
Yodhukaman avasthitan.
योद्धुकामान् अवस्थितान्
Kairmaya saha yodhavyam.
कैर्मया सह योद्धव्यम्
Asmin rana samudyame.
अस्मिन् रणसमुद्यमे
योत्स्यमानान् अवेक्षेऽहं य एते अत्र समागताः धार्तराष्ट्रस्य दुर्बुद्धेर्युद्धे प्रियचिकीर्षवः. So, who are these people who are eagerly joined the battle to please this evil, wicked son of Dhritarashtra, I would like to see who are these people. He says, Durbuddhe dhartarashtrasya yuddhe priyachikirshavaha ye ete atra samagataha tan aham yotsyamanaan avekshe. So, Dhartarashtra in singular is son of Dhritarashtra, which in this case is Duryodhana. Durbud is a Durbuddhe Dhartarashtrasya. So the evil son of Dhritarashtra, the wicked son of Dhritarashtra, Duryodhana, to please him, Priya Chikirshavaha, to just for the sake of keeping him in good books, to humor him, there are people who have come and joined this battle. Who are these battle-hungry warriors who have joined the war? I want to have a good look at them so that I can engage in battle. Yotsyamanaan aveksheham.
Yotsyamanaan aveksheham.
Ya etetra samagataha.
Ya etetra samagataha.
Dhartarashtrasya durbuddher.
Dhartarashtrasya durbuddher.
Yuddhe priya chikirshavaha.
Yuddhe priya chikirshavaha.
Sanjaya uvacha. Evamukto hrishikesho gudakeshena bharata senayor ubhayor madhye sthapayitva rathottamam. So, having said this by Gudakesha to Hrishikesha, then he took this best of chariots and placed it in between the two armies. Sanjaya Uvacha, Bharata. Bharata is a descendant of Bharata, which is an address to Dhritarashtra again. Evam Gudakeshena Uktah Hrishikeshaha Senayoho Ubhayoho Madhye Ratha Rathottamam Sthapayitva. So when Gudakesha is a epithet of Arjuna. He's a person who is said to have conquered sleep. So he tells Rishikesha, when he tells Senayor Ubhayor Madhye Ratham Sthapayame Chuta, and I want to see all these people who have gathered together to please Duryodhana and all these things. At that point of time, Krishna takes this best of chariots, Rathottamam, and he places it in between the two armies, just as Arjuna had requested him. Sanjaya Uvacha.
Sanjaya Uvacha.
Eva Mukto Hrishikesho.
Eva Mukto Hrishikesho.
Gudakeshena Bharata.
Gudakeshena Bharata.
Senayor Ubhayor Madhye.
Senayor Ubhayor Madhye.
Sthapayitva Rathottamam.
Sthapayitva Rathottamam.
Bhishma Drona Pramukataha Sarvesham cha Mahikshitam Uvacha Partha Pashyaitan Samavetan Kurun iti. So, right in front of Bhishma, Drona, and all the kings of the world, Krishna places the chariot, and then he tells Arjuna, see, look at all the Kurus who have assembled here. So, Bhishma Drona Pramukataha Sarvesham cha Mahikshitam Rishikesha Uvacha Partha Etan Samavetan Kurun Pashya iti. So, having taken this chariot, placing them between the two armies in front of Bhishma and Drona and all the other kings of the world who are on the side of the Kauravas, Rishikesha, Krishna tells Partha, Pashya Etan, look at all these Kurus who have assembled here. Now, again, in Sanskrit poet verses, especially in the where it is continuous, we use this word iti to indicate, like almost it is used like a close inverted comma. Because if you, in the olden days, many times all the writings or even, the palm scripts, everything would not be written in this format where you have one line, one pada in every line. It would be a continuous text. There is no punctuation except for one bar at the end of half a verse and two bars at the end of one shloka. So therefore, these words like iti were introduced to show that there is a direct speech. So here, Uvacha Partha is kind of the opening. Krishna says something, 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 and iti. So here you will know that. So Uvacha is an indication of Krishna speaking. So he says Partha Pashyetan Samavetan Kurun. That part is in the inverted commas, and iti is an indication of the end. So having taken the chariot to the point between the two armies in front of Bhishma and Drona and all the people, Krishna says, look at all the Kurus assembled here. So Bhishma Drona Pramukhataha
Bhishma Drona Pramukhatah
Sarvesham cha Mahikshitam
Sarvesham cha Mahikshitam
Vacha Partha Pashyaitan
Uvacha Partha Pashyetan
Samavetan Kurun iti.
Samavetan Kuruniti.
तत्रापश्यत् स्थितान् पार्थः पितॄन् अथ पितामहान् आचार्यान् मातुलान् भ्रातॄन् पुत्रान् पौत्रान् सखींस्तथा. So there, standing in front of him, Arjuna saw Pitrun Atha Pitamahan. So people who are equivalent of fathers, people who are whose grandfather, then teachers, and Matula, his uncles and brothers, and equivalent of sons and grandsons and friends, all these people he saw. Atha Partha Tatra Sthitan Pitrun Pitamahan Acharyan Matulan Bhratrin Putran Pautran Sakhin Tatha Apashyat. So there he saw people who are like his fathers, who are his father's age. Pitamahan, Bhishma is his kind of grandfather, and Acharya, Drona, then Matulan. Matula is like mama, maternal uncle. Bhratran, so people who are like his own brothers, and people who are like his own sons, and Pautran, grandsons. Arjuna is already, his son is married, and his daughter-in-law is pregnant with a child. So he's almost, probably he's already a grandfather by then. And friends, Sakhi. So all these people he saw in the battlefield. And Shashuran Suhrudaschaiva Senayor Ubhayor Api Tan Samikshya Kaunteya Sarvan Bandhun Avastitan. So then Shwashura. Shwashura means in-law, like Sasur we say in Hindi, right? That comes from Shwashura. So in-laws and Suhruda, like friends and like-minded people. So he saw in all these people in these army. When he looked at, he saw all these in both the armies. He saw not just in his army, and not just in the opposite army. So in both the armies, he saw all these people because all of them are going to fight, right? And when he goes near them, he finds all the people who are his, like his friends and relatives. Then he takes a closer look at all these people who are assembled for battle. So Shashuran Suhrudah cha eva ubhayoho api senayoho saha kaunteyah tan sarvan avasthitan bandhun samikshya. So he had a good look at all these people who are standing in front of him in both the armies. So his chariot is placed in between the armies. So he is taking a good look, like a vantage. He's at a vantage point. He's seeing both the armies. So grandfathers, fathers, teachers, uncles, brothers, sons, grandsons, friends, in-laws, and like father-in-law and the like-minded people. All these people are gathered in both the armies, and he sees, wherever he sees, he's only able to see his friends and relatives. So if you go back to the Mahabharata, you remember that after the death of Pandu, Kunti brings the 5 children to Hastinapura, and the cousins, the Pandavas and Kauravas, grew up together. So they have been living in Hastinapura all the time, and they know everybody in Hastinapura. So even though they may not have personal enmity with certain people, at the end of the day, those people who they grew up with, they have to fight for their king, and they are in the army, in the opposite army. And as for the Pandava army, obviously the really close friends and relatives of Pandavas have come and joined the Pandava army, like Drupada and Drishtadhyumna and Satyaki and all these people who are very close. They have joined the Pandava side. So on both the sides of the army, he sees people who are very, very close to him, either friends or relatives. So we will do both the shlokas one after the other. Tatra pashyat stitan partah
तत्रापश्यत् स्थितान् पार्थः
पितॄनथ पितामहान्
पितॄनथ पितामहान्
आचार्यान् मातुलान् भ्रातॄन्
आचार्यान् मातुलान् भ्रातॄन्
पुत्रान् पौत्रान् सखींस्तथा
पुत्रान् पौत्रान् सखींस्तथा
श्वशुरान् सुहृदश्चैव
श्वशुरान् सुहृदश्चैव
सेनयोरुभयोरपि
सेनयोरुभयोरपि
तान् समीक्ष्य स कौन्तेयः
तान् समीक्ष्य स कौन्तेयः
सर्वान् बन्धून् अवस्थितान्
सर्वान् बन्धून् अवस्थितान्
कृपया परयाविष्टो विषीदन्निदमब्रवीत् अर्जुन उवाच दृष्ट्वेमान् स्वजनान् कृष्ण युयुत्सून् समवस्थितान्. So at that point of time, Arjuna, the son of Kunti, overcome by a sudden burst of pity, he spoke in despair. Krishna, when I see my own people eager to fight us, सीदंति मम गात्राणि मुखं च परिशुष्यति वेपतुश्च शरीरे मे रोमहर्षश्च जायते. My limbs grow weak, my mouth becomes dry, my body is trembling, and I have goosebumps, horripilation, my hair stands on end. Gandivam sramsate hastat tvak chaiva paridahyate na cha shaknomi avasthatum bhramati iva cha me manaha. So the Gandiva, the bow Gandiva, which is the great bow of Arjuna, it slips from my hand. Tvak chaiva parid, my skin is burning and I'm not able to even stand, and my mind is as if it is in a whirl. So let's go back to the 128. Paraya kripaya avishtaha. Paraya kripaya avishtaha vishidan idam abravit. So a great paraya kripaya, so great compassion or pity, very, very intense feeling of compassion. Avishtaha, it kind of engulfs him, and in great pain and despair and heart burn, he says these words. So he's really deeply pained when he sees these people joined for battle. So he says, Drishtveman Swajanan Krishna Yutsun Samavasthitan. So when I see my own people, now everywhere he sees his own people, all of them have come together for battle. When I see in both the sides of the army, I see only people who I know. All of them are my friends, all of them are relatives to me. When I see that, I'm in great pain and my limbs grow weak and my mouth is dry and my body is trembling. I'm, there is a horripilation. So Sidanti Mama Gatrani. So all the limbs are becoming weak, and Mukham is mouth, Parishushyati it's become very dry. Vepatuhu is trembling. Sharire me, my body trembles, and Romaharsha, the hair is standing on end. And Gandivam samsate hastat, from the hasta, from the hand, the Gandiva is slipping. And twach is the skin. Cha eva paridahyate, it is burning. It is, sometime when you are really in pain or despair or something, the skin feels like it is burning. And I'm not even able to stand. Na shaknomi avasthatum bhramati iva me manaha. The mind is almost like a daze. When sometime you are faced with a very harsh reality, the mind is in a daze. Now, if you remember the very first verse of the Bhagavad Gita, when Dhritarashtra asks Sanjaya, he says, Mamaka Pandavas Saiva. What did my people and the Pandavas do? There is a clear distinction. These are my people, those are not my people, they are our enemies. Whereas here, Arjuna is saying, Drishtveman Swajanan Krishna, all of them are my people. How can I fight them? So you see the difference in the mentality of the Kauravas and the Pandavas here. Not just Arjuna, but all the Pandavas have this feeling of let us live together, live and let live. Even Bhima, who is such a fierce critic of Yudhishthira, even a person like that, when Krishna sets out for Sandhana, for the peace treaty with the Kauravas, even Bhima says, let us not unnecessarily fight. If they grant us the kingdom without any fight, or if they, give us what our fair share, let us not get into a fight. So even Bhima, who is such a, harsh critic, he wants to take revenge. He has promised that he will take revenge for Draupadi's humiliation and all that. This Bhima also relents, because at the end of the day they are good-hearted people. They don't want to fight, because a war doesn't help anybody. At the end of the day, it depletes the resources of both the sides. So at all costs they want to avoid the war. Whereas in the case of the Kauravas, especially Duryodhana, he is not able to live when he finds these cousins living prosperously, because whatever they have, as long as they live, they will live a better quality of life because they are noble. So here we see this stark contrast between the mindset of Pandava, the Arjuna and Dhritarashtra. Okay. Kripaya paraya vishto
कृपया परया विष्टो
vishidanidam abravit
विषीदन्निदमब्रवीत्
drishtveman swajanan krishna
दृष्ट्वेमान् स्वजनान् कृष्ण
yuyutsun samavasthitan
युयुत्सून् समवस्थितान्
सीदन्ति mama gatrani
सीदन्ति मम गात्राणि
मुखम च परिशुष्यति
मुखं च परिशुष्यति
वेपतुश्च शरीरे मे
वेपथुश्च शरीरे मे
रोमहर्षश्च जायते
रोमहर्षश्च जायते
गाण्डीवं स्रंसते हस्तात्
गाण्डीवं संसृते हस्तात्
त्वक् चैव परिदह्यते
त्वक्चैव परिदह्यते
न च शक्नोमि अवस्थातुं
न च शक्नोमि अवस्थातुं
भ्रमतीव च मे मनः
भ्रमतीव च मे मनः
निमित्तं पश्यामि विपरीतानि केशव न च श्रेयोनुपश्यामि हत्वा स्वजनमाहवे. I see all ill omens, bad signs, and I don't see any good that's going to come out of killing our own people in battle. He says, Keshava viparitani cha nimittani pashyami. Ahave swajanam hatva shreyah na anupashyami cha. So he says, Keshava, again in direct sambodhana to Krishna, nimittani viparitani. So nimitta is a kind of some signs, some omens. There are these entire signs of omens that are developed. So the signs don't look good. It doesn't feel right. We are not getting the right vibes. So the signs are not good. And in general, we won't get any good result by fighting our own people, Ahave, in the battle. By killing our own people in battle, he is not going to lead us to any sort of shreyas. This is what he's saying. Nimittani cha pashyami.
निमित्तानि च पश्यामि
Viparitani keshava.
विपरीतानि केशव
Na cha shreyonu pashyami.
न च श्रेयोनुपश्यामि
Hatva swajanam ahave.
हत्वा स्वजनम् आहवे
Na kankshe vijayam Krishna, na cha rajyam sukhani cha, kim no rajyena govinda, kim bhogair jivitena va. He says, Oh Govinda, oh herder of cows, I don't fancy victory, pleasure, or kingdom. What is the use of this kingdom or happiness or even our own life? So Krishna, aham, that is to be understood, aham vijayam na kankshe. I don't desire victory. Vijayam na kankshe. Rajyam na cha kankshe. So again, that is to be understood. Sukhani cha na kankshe. So I don't desire all these things. Govinda, kim rajyena bhogaihi jivitena vanaha kim. So here Keshava, so Krishna is one he used, for Sambodhana. He also calls him Govinda. Govinda is a person who is like a herder of cows, because Krishna grew up in Gokula. He is also, known as the milkman and the herder of cows, both in a literal and in a metaphorical sense. And a herder of cows is a person of a simple lifestyle, a simple person who is not expecting any great riches and everything. So he says, you have this epithet Govinda, you are a simple person, why do you want this kingdom, and why should we go there? So it is a suggestion. Maybe Vyasa intended it, maybe he did not, but it's nice to think of it like this. So he says, I don't want victory. Na kankshe vijayam Krishna. I don't desire victory. I don't want kingdom. I don't want pleasures. What is the use of pleasure? What is the use of kingdom or even life? What is the meaning of life? Now, why would Arjuna, a warrior who is just entering into the battlefield, why would he say that? We will see it in the next following verses. But he says, I don't want any of these things. Just like leave me alone. Na kankshe vijayam Krishna.
न काङ्क्षे विजयं कृष्ण
Na cha rajyam sukhani cha.
न च राज्यं सुखानि च
Kim no rajyena govinda.
किं नो राज्येन गोविन्द
Kim bhogair jivitena va.
किं भोगैर्जीवितेन वा
येषाम अर्थे कांक्षितम नो राज्यम भोगाः सुखानि च त इमे अवस्थिता युद्धे प्राणां त्यक्त्वा धनानि च. So the people for whom we want to fight this war and win, right? We are fighting this war for the sake of certain people. The very same people are standing in front of us who have given up their, risking their lives and riches. They are standing in battle. The very same people so we want to win a war and enjoy the kingdom with some people. I cannot, if one person or two people or one family cannot enjoy the bounty of a kingdom. It has to be a united thing. It has to, so many people come together living happily, then only it is a real enjoyment of a kingdom. So if we have to enjoy, the reason for whom the people for whom we are fighting, they are the very people who are standing here fighting, risking their life and their riches. So what is the point of fighting, he says? So yesham arthe rajyam bhogaha sukhani cha naha kangshitam te ime pranan dhanani cha tyaktva yuddhe avasthita. So for the very reason for which we are fighting is so that we can enjoy the kingdom with certain people, but the very same people are standing in both armies in front of me, risking their life, risking their riches, all. They are putting everything at stake. Now, when they are coming to fight a war of this magnitude, they are bringing not just themselves, but they are bringing their wealth and so many soldiers to fight. For example, now Satyaki, one of the characters who came earlier, he's very close to Krishna. He's a student of Arjuna. He brings an entire Akshohini army to the battlefield. So how much is he risking? What does Satyaki have to gain personally from this? At least Yudhishthira and Bhima and Arjuna, they are going to get the kingdom. They have some personal gain. So many other people, just for the sake of the larger dharma, they come to fight. So the people for whom we are trying to, battle and have the kingdom, they are the people who have come here. So yesham arthe kangshitam no.
येषामध्ये काङ्क्षितं नो
Rajyam bhogaha sukhani cha.
राज्यं भोगाः सुखानि च
Ta imeva sthita yuddhe.
त इमेव स्थिता युद्धे
Pranam styaktva dhanani cha.
प्राणां त्यक्त्वा धनानि च.
आचार्यः पितरः पुत्रास्तथैव च पितामहाः मातुलाः श्वशुराः पौत्राः श्यालाः सम्बन्धिनस्तथा. So the teachers and father-like figures, people equivalent to sons and grandfather, all of these people, matulaha, shvashuraha, pautraha, so cousins and in-laws and grandchildren and shalas like brother-in-law and all these various relatives. एतान्न हन्तुम् इच्छामि घ्नतोपि मधुसूदन अपि त्रैलोक्य राज्यस्य हेतो किं नु मही कृते. I don't want to kill them. Even at the cost of me having to sacrifice my life, I don't want to kill them. I will not fight even for the lordship of all the three worlds. What about this measly small kingdom on earth? So let us look at the order, the prose order. He says, Acharyaha, Pitaraha, Putraha, Pitamahaha, Tatha evacha, Matulaha, Shvashuraha, Pautraha, Shyalaha, Tatha Sambandinaha, Madhusudana, Trailokya Rajyasya Hetoho Gnata api etan na hantum etan hantum na ichhami kim no mahi krite. So all these people, teachers and father-like figures, equivalent of sons and grandfathers, cousins, in-laws, all these people have gathered, various relatives have gathered. So even for the lordship of the three worlds, that is Bhu, Bhuvaha, Swaha, we have the three worlds, the earth and sky and the heaven, the three worlds. Even for the lordship of the three worlds, I will not fight with them. What about this measly piece of land, Mahikrit, the small, the earth itself is so huge. This is some small piece of land on that earth. For this small piece, measly piece of land, do you think I'm going to fight? I don't want to fight them, even if that means I will die. See, there's one thing is, let us not fight, you will be okay, I will be okay. But here, I don't mind even sacrificing my life, but I don't want to fight these people. So, again and again, we see a streak of nobility in Arjuna. Although this is, we will come to the analysis of the first chapter and what is going on in his mind in little greater detail. But so far, we see this desperation is coming in from within because he's a good person, because he is noble. If he was not noble, he would not have had these thoughts at all. Because self-preservation is the fundamental for any animal species, not just humans. Everybody wants to preserve their own life. So here, a great warrior is willing to up his stakes in the war simply because he doesn't want to see this kind of large-scale destruction. Look at the mentality of Arjuna. He, at the onset of the war, he is willing to relinquish his own life so that a great war is averted and he doesn't have to participate in it. Even though it may be a wrong stand, which of course Krishna will correct him through the course of the Gita, but you see the readiness with which Arjuna is wanting to avoid the conflict. On the other hand, you see Duryodhana in the comforts of his palace. He could have just said, okay, I will give you 5 villages, get lost. I don't want this trouble. In the comfort of his palace, where he had all the possibility to avert this war, he did not agree. So you can see the nobility of the Pandavas and the vileness of the Kauravas again and again throughout the epic. This is just one more example. Okay. Acharyah pitarah putraha.
आचार्याः पितरः पुत्राः
तथैव च पितामहाः
तथैव च पितामहाः
मातुलाः श्वशुराः पौत्राः
मातुलाः श्वशुराः पौत्राः
श्यालाः सम्बन्धिनस्तथा
श्यालाः सम्बन्धिनस्तथा
एतान्न हन्तुमिच्छामि
एतान्न हन्तुमिच्छामि
घ्नतोऽपि मधुसूदन
घ्नतोऽपि मधुसूदन
अपि त्रैलोक्यराज्यस्य
अपि त्रैलोक्यराज्यस्य
हेतोः किं नु मही कृते.
हेतोः किं नु मही कृते.
here another interesting thing, he uses the epithet Madhusudana. Maybe it is not intentional, but there's also a possibility where he acknowledges that Krishna Madhusudana is a epithet given to Krishna because he killed a demon known as Madhu. So that's why he's called Madhusudana, the killer of Madhu. He's also called Madhava because he's a descendant of one Madhu. So that Madhu is different from whom he descended, and the Madhu is different from for who he killed. So Madhusudana. So he has killed in battle. But I know that you have killed many people in battle, you have won many wars and everything, but still I don't want to fight. Maybe that's a subtle suggestion. Maybe it is our own fancy. Then he says, Nihatya dhartarashtran naha ka priti syad janardana papam evashrayed asman hatvaitan atatainaha. So even if I am just alone on the battlefield, I would not. What kind of happiness are we going to get by killing these people? And the nihatya, by having destroyed these Kauravas on the battlefield, what kind of enjoyment, what good is going to come out of it? We will only be incurring papa. We will only be taking refuge in papa by killing these atatainaha, these attackers who are attacking us. By killing them, we will only gain papa. This is Janardana, dhartarashtran nihatya sthitanam naha ka pritihi syat pratyuta atatainah etan hatva asman papam eva avashrayet. So by killing these people in battle, nihatya dhartarashtran, so the sons of Dhritarashtra, naha, to us, ka priti syat. What kind of enjoyment? See, can killing be an enjoyment? Can be, destroying somebody bring any happiness? Janardana is another epithet of Krishna. Can we get anything out of this? The only thing we will get is papa, which is sin or guilt, crime. All these words are there. Papa. I'm sure you know this word. So this, by killing these atataina, this is what we get. Now, of course, Arjuna, in his momentary lapse of wisdom, has forgotten that atataina is a person who is attacking, and it is only fair to kill the opponents in war. There is nothing wrong with killing opponents in war. So he's forgotten that it is totally fine, and there is no papa which is incurred when you are protecting yourself. But even then, he's conscious of dharma in some sense. He's having a sense of niti. So even though he's misplaced niti, but there is a very, very strong moral righteousness in him, which is why he says, what is the use? We will only get papa. So let us close with this verse. I'll recite it once and we can repeat it. Nihatya dhartarashtran naha
Nihatya dhartarashtraन् naha
ka priti syad janardana
ka priti syad janardana
papam evashrayed asman
papamevashrayed asman
hatvaitan atatainaha.
hatvaitan atatayinaha.
Thank you, Hamsa, for volunteering today. So with this, we come to the end of today's session. So tomorrow I'll should be able to close with the first chapter and maybe start off with a few verses from the second chapter. So here we saw that there is a movement from the narrating of the story to the point where Arjuna tells Krishna to take him to the center of the battlefield. And there, when the reality strikes him that, oh, all these people are people I know, are my friends and relatives, he suddenly is overcome by a burst of pity and compassion for all of them and doesn't want to see them die in the battlefield. So he starts giving reasoning for not fighting. So we will see the rest of the reasoning of Arjuna in tomorrow's session. And like always, if there is any feedback, any suggestions, please let me know. I'm very thankful to everybody who messaged me or wrote emails to me yesterday. So sometimes there may be errors, sometimes there may be something I missed out. Definitely, if you let me know, it is beneficial for everybody. So a little bit of effort from your side is beneficial for everybody. Thank you very much. Namaste.